Welcome to another episode of the Silman Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Battisto. Today's guest is Justin Signorelli. He is the head coach for Alfred State College. It's his 5th year there. He took the program as it was transitioning from a junior college to Division III, and he just had his first Division III All-American, as well as getting his 2nd team conference title. Super excited to have him on the show, talking about what's happened at Alfred State, what's that process been like in that transition, as well as how has he been able to lead this program and plans for the future. So excited to have him on, talking about wrestling. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Yeah, so talk about just like what it was like doing the grad class. You already know that you're going to be taking over this program when you start doing the camps. This was summer of 2019. So you get the job, and then you're going into this camp. Why was this something that you already kind of planned on doing the camps before you took the job?
Right. So it was a 2-year grad program, but I was probably like the oldest GA in the country. I was 28. I was coaching at the community college level for 2 years as a head coach, but that was just a part-time gig. So I was like, I'm going to have to get my master's to get something full-time. So after my first year of grad school and coaching, I decided to get involved with the JROB camps to do that over the summer. But I also was applying for a bunch of jobs and seeing what was out there because I didn't necessarily need to spend 2 years, I felt. I guess Alfred didn't feel that I needed 2 whole years either because they hired me. But I was still lined up to work the camps, and I wanted to improve my own skill set, coaching and learning from different guys and being a part of the camp process. And then I thought it'd be good for recruiting just to get the school out there and meet some kids and stuff like that. So I stuck with that. And then I was already almost halfway through my grad degree, and I was already in that course that was free. So I was like, all right, I really don't want to keep doing this, but I really should. And it was tough. I took 5 years off from undergrad to going back to school. And I really didn't want to do that. So I did go back, and then I could have easily just been like, got the job I wanted. I can throw this away now, come back to it later on, but I knew I wouldn't come back to it. So I was like, I got to just get through this class because it's already free, and then figure out how I'm going to get through the rest of them. But I stuck with it.
Dude, that's crazy. You said 5 years after getting your bachelor's, you got back and then got your master's. I'm kind of actually in that same boat. I'm going to get a master's degree. There's like some online program where it's like it just can go as fast a rate as you can do it. And I'm like, dude, this is way cheaper than what it would cost to get a normal master's. Like, I'll do that. But dude, I can't imagine, like, I don't know, like trying to get your master's while taking over the team, while doing this camp. And dude, the camp hours were, I don't know. I just feel like anytime I had off, I either wanted to go out and do something cool or sleep.
Yeah. And I didn't do that much cool stuff. I just did class and slept. I was old too, working the camp, so I feel like I feel like they took it a little easier on me. They always put me in like the runs to the weight room and the runs, like watch them run the bleachers and stuff. So I felt like they were taking it a little easy on me. But it was still a lot of work and just a lot of sessions. So when you have like that one session off a day and then that one off day every couple of days, just the last thing you want to do is grad school work. I had to set aside some time and figure out how to get through there.
Yeah, I thought it was cool, especially like what you said, being able to kind of network and meet some kids just from other places, especially as you're stepping into this head coaching role. And I thought it was really cool is they also had it was like I'm trying to think, it's like a college recruit, like they brought in a bunch of different coaches from other colleges, and they had like tables set up, and I think that was at the 28-day one.
Yeah, that happened. I participated in that. Obviously, the campers knew me and stuff by then, but not so much in the like for the practice and stuff. It was kind of business as usual. But then when we broke out for like the career fair session and stuff, kind of my first experience, I totally didn't fully know like what I was pitching, like what Alfred was and stuff. I knew a little bit, but like looking back on it, I was probably just like, oh yeah, really good. You're gonna want to come here. It was just good practice for me, and then good for, I guess, the campers that were seriously looking at schools to like see me in a different way kind of thing. But probably more so beneficial in like the experience and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just all the stuff that Jay talks about, just with that camp. I mean, I feel like me personally, like I was able to take a lot like into coaching the high school team, just from like structuring workouts to different kind of practice plans to honestly just being able to kind of learn from just people from all over. Like, I feel like I'd kind of been a little bit of a bubble in California where there's not any Division III schools, and I'm around a bunch of guys that wrestle Division III. And like, I think it was kind of humbling for me because I think there's a lot of kids that are D1 or bust, and just being around some honestly some really hardworking guys that do have a lot of wrestling skill. It was just really cool. Like I still obviously I follow you and I follow a few other guys that I just know from the camps. And it's just cool seeing you guys do awesome stuff. That's kind of why I wanted to have you on. You just had your first All-American, man, and you've been there for 5 years, and I feel like the 5-year mark is usually a good time to kind of look back and reflect on just what you've done so far. Um, what was it like maybe kind of going in there those first couple months, just you get down from the camps, and then what was like in that transition to go to Alfred?
So the hardest part probably was Alfred State was a junior college, NJCAA, until 2011. At that point, we had a bunch of bachelor programs, making us a 4-year school, but still keeping all those 2-year programs. So unique in that way. But we had to transition as an athletic department to D3, and wrestling was like the last sport to go from junior college to like this weird club period to being D3. So they brought me in as the first ever full-time coach. It was just a part-time guy, and it was being run like a club team. They were 1-9 the year before I got there, so there wasn't very much talent to work with, and there wasn't very much like culture at all.
Yeah.
So in a way, like the best blessing from the whole thing was like there was no culture, so I was able to create it exactly how I wanted it. I didn't have to like tear anything down first. There were some really good guys, good men that wanted to be coached and wanted to be pushed and wanted to get better. So those guys buying in, we didn't have like a ton of success my first year, and then my second year we didn't do anything because of COVID. But
Yeah.
practice, so the first 2 years were tough, because we didn't even get a chance to like see any real on mat improvements. But I could tell like we were headed in the right direction. The guys that were like bought in, and the recruits I brought in, they like could see the potential. And then that first year after COVID, so the 21-22 season, we started to have some success and pick up some wins, and we had a winning dual meet season. And we played some guys at NCAA regionals and stuff. So that was good. And like we got the ball rolling. And then the second year, a little bit more progress. And then this year, obviously, we had an All-American, had 2 guys get to the national tournament. So that was our first time at nationals. We got invited to go to the national duals also. So we went to that in January. So that was cool to fly across the country with 25 guys and get to see them like look around the UNI dome, like, oh, this is awesome and stuff like that. So some cool experiences, some good results, and like the culture that I started and like thought like this is how things are going to be. It's obviously kind of changed a little bit here and there, but like the main principles and values and like what I look for in guys has been really solid. Got some really good feedback from the guys at exit meetings. Like a lot of guys, I was almost surprised how many guys like said how fun the season was. Like wrestling can be a grind, obviously, but like to get that feedback that like yeah worked hard and some days were really tough and some weeks and some events and stuff, but for them to just kind of reflect overall and like feel so positive about the experience, that was good because that's definitely important.
Yeah, I think what you said, like being able to bring your team out for national duels, I think for one, like that and having an All American just puts kind of more of a spotlight on your program. So it highlights all the things that you guys are doing well. And I can't imagine like being, maybe part of, I'm sure you have a lot of young guys on your team, right? Just because just recruiting and with COVID and everything,
Yeah.
being able to be on that team that gets to go to UNI and be able to experience that arena and be in that kind of event. And plus see each other, like other teams competing and you're competing with those teams. I feel like that's just got to be one of those cool experiences where, yeah, you're doing those exit interviews. And, I think, yeah, wrestling's a grind, but I think any opportunity that you get outside the training room to have fun or make it enjoyable, it's like, do it, because those are some of the things like we talk about lasting memories. It's like, yeah, the hard stuff is something that you remember too, but also just hanging out with the boys on a trip. Like that's super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, to be able to go out there was cool. I remember when I was in college, we went to national duels and we drove out, and we practiced at Ohio State. And I remember I have some pictures from it, like my first iPhone, like more than 10 years ago. But it's like the first photos on my phone, scrolling back 12,000 photos. It's like, yeah, I remember that Ohio State. That was sweet. So like when we take trips, and we don't fly, we try to, like the past couple of years, we worked out in Lehigh's room. We worked out in Cornell's room. We've been to Lock Haven's room. So we've hit a couple. So I think it's cool. And me and my assistant are like, this is awesome. And some guys are like, all right, whatever, it's Matt's. We got practice time, and some guys really like it. So can't always please everyone, but when we can get out of our own room and see other campuses and do stuff, I definitely try to get us those opportunities.
Do you have a lot of guys on your team right now that are from New York?
Yeah, mostly New York. A couple Virginia guys. I have a Vermont guy. I think that was it for this year. I got a Florida guy coming in next year.
Nice.
So starting to kind of branch out, but it's kind of hit or miss. Getting some PA guys finally. So
Yeah.
that's got to start getting into Jersey more. But there's some pretty good wrestling right in that area.
Hmm.
But we just started, this year's the first year we're offering in-state tuition to anyone in the United States. And we're a state school already, so our tuition rate's super competitive.
That's big, especially for just recruiting, because you're just able to offer a little bit more. And Division III doesn't offer athletic scholarships, but you can still put together a pretty good scholarship package, or financial aid package rather. But that's awesome, because now it's
Yeah.
like you can go out and you can recruit from these other states. I think especially being in an area like how big is it's Rochester, right?
So Rochester's like an hour and 20 minutes north of us.
Okay.
We're down directly below them, like pretty close to that PA border. But Alfred is the town. It's really small. There's another college, a 4-year private school across the street. Um, they don't have wrestling, but it's the two colleges and maybe a couple hundred people live in the town, but that's it. It's
Dang.
just it's just like 19 to 22-year-olds all over.
So when you're trying to build, like, you talk about, your scheduling with like duels and stuff, when you do home duels, is there like a high school that's local that you can kind of, try to attract like these wrestlers to come out and watch, or is it mostly you kind of have to go up to Rochester and try to get kids to come down and see it?
There's a decent amount of teams down here. There's a couple guys on my roster from closer schools, like 20 minutes away.
Hmm.
We do a event in the fall. It's like our family, friends, alumni open event practice thing. So we put the mats out on the football stadium. And we do it homecoming weekend. So we get out there from 9 to 10:30 right before football comes out. But we open it up. We tell people to invite their parents, their girlfriends, their roommates, their people from their program in school. We've had over 100 people come and watch practice.
Hmm.
And some of the high school coaches who know me and know guys on the team, they come and bring some guys and stuff. So that's cool. And then we do a tailgate afterwards. So it's cool to practice outside. And, we got like a video scoreboard at the stadium. So
Oh,
there's like
nice.
slideshow pictures going and we get the music going. And we usually do like a hard practice that day. So we just get after it, go live, and some tough conditioning and stuff. And I think some parents are like, holy shit. So I try to make it a little bit tough to, let the parents know we're not slacking off.
Well, especially I think probably a lot of parents and a lot of people that might go to or go and watch that practice, they've probably never seen a college practice before, and possibly have never even seen a high school practice, a wrestling practice period. I'm actually going to steal that idea. I'm going to talk to our admin tomorrow and be like, hey, can we make this happen? Especially during football season. It's like, hey, let's get out there before the JV game and let's lace them up and kind of showcase, what we've been doing.
Yeah,
That's a
I
great
think it's a
idea.
great idea. So definitely steal it. I hope you guys can do that.
Yeah, it's we have a grass and we have a grass field, so I'm not sure. We maybe lay like a tarp down just so we don't get the mats all dirty. But you guys have turf, I think, though, right?
Yeah, we have turf, so we just put it right on there.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, what I would say is if you do it on turf, is have like a battery powered leaf blower because the pellets and stuff will like kick up on there. I just had a guy with a broom, one of my managers, just like sweeping it off every once in a while.
Yeah,
But
that
just
was something.
get set up, and it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I played football, but like, maybe only half the games we played had turf. But I remember doing the camps, the J-Rob camps, and it was like I had forgot like those pellets, and they would just get in like our socks and our shoes. And now that you brought it up, I'm like, dude, that was so annoying. They would just get in everything.
Yeah, yeah, and you find them. It's like sand. You find it like days later, like in your shorts, like in your laundry, you're kicking around.
Yeah. How what's your wrestling room look like?
So it's one mat. It's a pretty nice room, but it's only one mat. It's got a
Yeah.
lot of equipment, but it's got new wall pads and the mats are new. It's just small.
Yeah.
So basically, for the past 3 years, I've been trying to get us into somewhere else. And for the past couple of years, the AEDs started kind of working that up. I've actually built a really good relationship with our school president here.
Nice.
So he's advocating for us. He really likes wrestling, and he thinks we're doing a good job here. So everyone's kind of trying to work on it, and we're going to be moving. It's just a matter of when. Um, the pool just recently got closed. We're not fixing it, and it was leaking thousands of gallons of water.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think I think a potential short-term solution is they're going to fill in that hole, and we can put two mats out in there next year. There's another building right off the back of our athletic building. It's a 50 by 134 foot like pole barn structure. But right now it's just like marketing, print and mail services, stuff like that. So they're trying to move them anywhere else and give that to wrestling, in
Yeah.
which case it'll turn into a two mat facility, locker rooms for men's and women's teams, coaches' offices, things like that.
That's
Um,
awesome. Because I mean, we have a pretty small room in our high school. It's literally like a mat, and then like there's a couple runners on either side. But it's just if you have that bigger space, I mean, it just especially if your focus is development, like you need that wrestling space. You need it,
yeah.
because otherwise you're doing like groups of three when you go live. And even if you only got maybe five pairs wrestling at the same time, like half on, half off, that's still pretty tight.
hmm Yeah, that was definitely a challenge this year. We had over 30 guys for a good part of the season. So even just doing once we start finishing takedowns, going groups of three. So it cuts into reps. Um, so we kind of had to mitigate that process. Did a few split practice days and stuff like that, but it can be draining on the coaching staff. I'm the only full-time coach. So my assistant coach does way more than he gets paid to do. So I try not to overload him even more than that with two practices a day, stuff like that. So yeah, we did a lot of groups of three. It's tight, but I think that's one of the things that makes like Alfred really cool is one of the best compliments I've gotten since I've been here is we won conferences this past year. And one of the coaches called me like a few days later saying, asking him something about the tournament. And then he's just like, dude, I got to say, that was my first time at Alfred for wrestling. And like, I was really surprised. Like, you guys, the one mat room, the metal lockers in the locker room is like really, really like not really glamorous or anything. And I was like, no, man, that's what we do here. We're just gritty. We don't really need all that stuff. And just he's like, yeah, it's really remarkable, like the team and program you built up with how little like you guys have. And I was like, thank you. I think I'm gonna take that as like a badge of honor.
No, for sure. I mean, that's kind of like who we are as wrestlers. It's like we don't necessarily maybe need anything flashy. And it's weird like interacting with kids that maybe are a little bit flashy. And maybe I don't want to say I feel like entitlement gets thrown out a lot, but when you're recruiting some of these kids and they see the facilities and they see the wrestling room, when I'm sure it's got to be like, hey, if you want to work hard, like you have everything you need here to be an All-American, and now you have proof of concept. Is that? I mean, I guess what does that recruiting pitch look like when you're trying to get prospective student athletes to come to Alfred State?
Yeah, I think just this is what it is. We're hoping to move to a new facility, but I can't really pitch anything until it's approved and in process. So, I mean, the fact that we made it work and we get the job done with what we have right now, I think that's obviously good. It shows that it can be done. I think it'll be even more impactful within the team. Since I've been here, I knew you could come to Alfred State and be an All-American. It's just a matter of time, but until it happens, some people subconsciously just, they're not going to believe it. like we say like, you know, oh, I want to go to nationals. I want to be an All-American. And like people, it's just words until like there's some action behind it. And, you know, I think Sean getting it done this year and getting on the podium, even Sean and Zach qualifying, it's like, oh, those guys went to nationals. Like I can go to nationals. I see what they do. They work hard. I'm going to work that hard. I'm going to work even harder. So now that their teammates have done it, and you know, we got a guy on the podium now. I think within the team, the belief is there, and it's
Yeah.
just continue to grow. And I think with recruiting too, it'll carry over in a similar way.
Yeah. Maybe talk. Is it Malenfant? Is that how you say his last name?
Yep.
What's he like?
Just a gritty blue collar guy.
Heck
So
yeah.
he came in. He was fifth in New York State as a junior, and then his senior year was COVID, so he didn't get to wrestle. His goal was always to be a state champ, and I know when he finished fifth in the state, all four guys in front of him were seniors. Three of them went Division 1, and the kid who took fourth, he didn't wrestle, but that kid went Division 3. Tommy Askey, I think, was the champ, the one that
Mm-hmm.
just transferred to Minnesota.
Yeah.
So he was in that weight class, and like his goal, his dad was his high school coach. His dad wrestled at St. Lawrence. He wanted to be a state champ, and that was his whole thing. And he didn't get a chance to wrestle senior year, so then he kind of just said, "All right, I want to be a national champ." And he came in, and he was not raw, but like you could tell. I could tell, like I was like, I don't know if this kid even wants to get coached by me. He knows what he's doing. He thinks he's got it all figured out. So I think his first year was an adjustment period for him. He still did well. And then he was 165, and then he went up to 184. And he kind of took what I was saying with what he knew with his coaching from his dad and combined things. He bought in more in the weight room. And he had a really, really good year. Finished
Yeah.
fifth in the region. Came up a little short, so he was disappointed, but that fueled his off season. And he just put in a ton of work. And then he fifth in the country this year, won the region, fifth in the country. And the biggest thing was just one of his goals for the year was do something extra every day. And he did. He would come in, get on the bike early, stay late on the bike, do extra sprints, do extra live. One of the things he did a lot was we'd practice usually 5 to 7. Our women's team would go 7 to 9. He'd come in somewhere between 9 and midnight when they locked up the building to get in. So he didn't get locked out, and he would do more drilling, live, whatever. And there was a few guys on the team that would get in there with him, and they would just wrestle more at
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night. And that was the biggest thing. I think all his teammates know that. And I think you can always say like, hey, you got to do extra stuff. It's like, yeah, I know I got to do extra stuff. But when you see someone do extra stuff consistently all season long and go from fifth in the region to fifth in the country, it makes it a little easier to say like, all right, that's why I got to do extra stuff. That's what can happen if I do that extra stuff.
Yeah. And he's is he a senior? He's a senior this year, right? So what's next for him? Is he gonna maybe stick around and help at all,
No,
or is he
he's got
gonna
one more
go?
year.
He's got one more year.
Yeah.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
the COVID year? No,
No,
his
he
senior year of
came
high school
in.
was COVID.
Yeah. So he's
Gotcha.
going to be a true senior next year. He'll be back at 184. He didn't cut anything his first year at 84. He was kind of right around 84 this past year. So he's planning on hitting the weights pretty hard, getting a little bit stronger to be a bigger, fuller 184 pounder. I know the champ graduated and the other finalist graduated, and then he lost to the third and fourth place guys by a takedown each. So
Yeah.
I don't know what those guys' plans are, but they're not unbeatable. So we like where we're at, and I think his goal, the only goal goals were region champ, do extra work every day, and national champ. So he got 2 out of 3 this past year. So I think the goals will be pretty similar.
Is that when you kind of talk to him, in terms of goal setting for next year, is that something that's like, hey, we're just gonna run it back and just try to be a little bit better at it, or how do you kind of build on that?
Yeah, we had a really good exit meeting. He's always good to give feedback and be able to weigh in. He was one of our captains this year too, so we did captains meeting every week. Me and my assistant coach with our 4 captains to give feedback and just keep a better pulse on the team, which went really well. So he's always willing to give feedback. So we had a good exit meeting with him and talked about what his plans are over the summer. He owns his own business with one of his buddies. He was building trades, building construction his first 2 years, and now he's doing construction supervision bachelor's. Um,
Nice.
so last summer they started an LLC construction business. Um, so he's going to be doing that, but he's got access to a club up there. He's lining up some partners. There's a few guys from the team and a few guys from other teams that are going to be training with him. But basically, he knows where he's at in terms of how he did at nationals, and he admitted he was a little nervous out there.
Hmm.
In one match he won, he almost got taken down late and lost because he looked at the wrong clock.
Oh
And
my gosh.
he thought there was 5 seconds left, so he like came out of his stance and was like circling back away, but there's 25 seconds left. Um, and then the other match, one of the matches he lost, the kid had a minute 5 riding time when he took him down. So if he rode him out, he would have won. Instead, he cut him. So the kid got the riding point and the escape. He lost by a point.
Oh my gosh.
That was his quarterfinals match. So we had to get him refocused real quick before his blood round match. So that was probably the biggest hurdle of the whole tournament.
So wait, so what do you tell him? Like, what do you tell him after that?
He was just being really hard on himself, and like it was hard to like. We left him alone for a little, but we knew he was probably gonna be up in like 40 minutes. So he was like beating himself up bad, freaking out kind of, and you just had to tell him it's over. We got to get to this next one. You're good enough to be an All-American. Don't let this stop you from being an All-American. We're gonna get the next one. And we reeled him in enough to get it done. But that was scary because I was like, the only way he doesn't get it done is if he can't get past this and wrestle his next match.
Yeah. I mean, plus, like, I feel like some of the stuff, like looking at the clock or like not understand the riding time situation, I feel like that happens. And I think it's kind of, you just have to kind of go through that a couple of times before you really learn it. I mean, we saw it like this year with Messenbrink in the finals for D1. It's like, dude, he didn't understand he was down by one. It's like, dude, keep attacking.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, all right, he probably won't make that mistake again. But those are sometimes
Right.
the hardest lessons to learn, is the ones that you have to learn by failing.
Yeah, it's tough. And like the one where he looked at the wrong clock, at least like we survived that one. But like mental note now, like we usually on Fridays hit the road and travel out to whatever venue we're going to. I like to practice at the venue Friday night. So we've done that a lot, but obviously Nationals is a little bit different, and they reconfigured the mats for day 2, so it was shifted a little. Um, so yeah, just little things like that. Then the riding time, like you win so many matches all season, you're not in a situation where you even think the other guy has riding time.
Yeah.
So I think that was that. And then my 133 pounder lost a match. He went 1-2. He lost 9-8. He got taken down late to the kid who took 8th. And then he won. He pinned his guy. And then he lost in the wrestlebacks to the kid who took 5th in the ultimate rideouts. So he got out in like 15 seconds. The other kid got out in 14 seconds. So he knew he was down, and he knew he tried to ride him out just a little bit longer, and he lost by a second. But like afterwards, like after it all settled and stuff, I was like, man, I'm really glad we do situations where
Yeah.
we do like the alternating rideouts. And like, because if he would have lost by a second because he didn't know that, like that's on me. I would have felt terrible. So stuff like that is like good thing we do that. We'll definitely keep doing that. And then other things, it's like, well, making sure you know what clock is which, and making sure you know the riding time situation. And it's tough when you get to nationals. It's loud. It's a crazy environment. So like in between periods, you can't even communicate like he has riding time right now. He's just like looking over like, coach, good job. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
tough trying to.
yeah, it's something that I think what you said, it's like you have to kind of go over in the room and then like make sure they know. But yeah, it's like, man, I don't know, that'd be so frustrating. I think with nationals too, it's for Division 3 and for Division 2, it's only a 16-man bracket, right?
So it's 18.
18.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's 6 regions, top 3 at each weight qualify.
So it's hard getting to that national tournament.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think there was 124 Division 3 teams this year. So our regional, I remember, this past year was 21 teams, so bigger brackets than nationals. So it's tough to get there, for sure. And then when you get there, if you don't have a pigtail on the front or back side, you only got to win two,
Yeah.
which, hard to win two matches at nationals, but, pretty doable. If you don't have a pigtail, like the guy Levy, my other guy, he fell into a pigtail situation. So he
Mhm.
was 1-2 and still only got top 16. But both guys he lost to ended up placing. So he was right there.
Yeah. This off season, so I know a little bit about Division III compliance. Like, how much contact are you allowed to have with them in terms of like being able to coach them in a practice outside the regular season?
So this past year was the first year that you're allowed to do anything outside of October 10th is the start date, and then
Hmm.
Nationals is the end date. So this year was the first year where we had 8 preseason dates or postseason dates to use for practice and training and stuff like that. So I used all 8 in the preseason. We were able to go twice a week, do some weight room stuff, do some structured practices. They were going to open mats and doing stuff on their own.
Hmm.
But to be able to like get guys caught up to speed, this is how we drill. These are, some of the lifts we'll do a lot of, things like that, and just get people acclimated. I thought was really good.
Yeah.
I think some coaches save some practices for the springtime. I don't really see a ton of value in that. By the time
Yeah.
nationals is over, I think everyone's had enough of me. Uh, they're happy to see me for their exit meetings, see me in passing, but I don't think they want to be coached through a practice in April when the weather's nice or whatever. So,
Yeah. Do you have any guys that like want to do freestyle or like any or Greco or anything after the college season's done?
um, I have guys that do all sorts of different things. I
Yeah.
know a couple of guys. One kid is doing WWE right now.
Nice.
There's like a,
Nice.
a local like WWE club or something, like 20 minutes away, and he somehow got involved with that. So he's doing that. I usually always have guys that are like going somewhere to do BJJ or stuff like that. And then a lot of guys just like to wrestle or like to do their own lifts or whatever. So it's kind of all over the place. I give them the recommended lifting program.
Hmm.
They have access to the room pretty much anytime. So the tools are there, but I think it's important for them to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Um, I encourage them, like when we had our exit meetings, one guy's, yeah, there's not really anywhere for me to wrestle back home, and I'm gonna be working like a ton this summer. I was like, well, then you should probably like get in the room this next month before you go home and get some wrestling in. So trying to steer guys in the right direction, but
Yeah, I think there's an advantage almost in being able to, kind of recommend some things, and then it's kind of up to the guys just to be independent.
mhm.
And I think, especially with a lot of kids now, at least on the high school level, when they start getting into college, it's like, do they know how to be independent?
Yeah, it's just accountability. I mean, that's this sport brings it out a lot. So, if guys are banged up and their knees are swollen and they've just been on the mats for 6 months and they don't want to be on the mats, that's okay. I'm not going to force them to, but they should be in the weight room. They should be catching up on schoolwork. They should be doing something.
Yeah, I got some personal questions for you,
Okay.
and this is something. So I'm getting married this summer, and it's something that
That's
I feel like we got like a good thing going with us in terms of like the work-life balance thing. But I feel like whenever I have somebody on the show, I just got to pick their brain with that because it's just, I don't know. It's always hard, and I know there's no like perfect way to do something.
mhm.
But just the constant, especially with college, it's like you're doing recruiting calls and you're talking to boosters and you're meeting with guys and you're doing compliance meetings and you're doing practices. What is maybe any kind of tips or strategies that you use just to kind of make sure you have your time with your wife and with your how's your kid right now?
He just turned 8 months yesterday.
8 months, dude.
Yeah.
So how do you balance all that?
Um, my wife is a stay-at-home mom now, so that is a huge advantage. So we're really excited for that. But before Gianna was born, my wife was working full time. She was an athletic trainer. Um, she was a college gymnast. She did her grad work as a graduate assistant athletic trainer down in Belmont, Tennessee, working with their Division I baseball team and softball team and stuff. So she very much understands athletics, which I think is really important for me working so much in athletics. So just her kind of understanding the process and the expectations and like oh, it's 6 o'clock. Why are you still doing this, honey? Like she gets it.
Yeah.
Just having, she's my partner, so having her on the same page as me with stuff, definitely important. And then just being able to balance that. And, when she was an athletic trainer, she at the Division III level, when I got her to move up here, she would have a fall sport, she would have a winter sport, she would have a spring sport. Sometimes they were overlapping, sometimes there was non-traditional season practices. So her schedule was a lot worse than mine. At least
Yeah.
I know what mine is. I pick my practices and, can pick and choose recruiting events and calls and stuff like that. Whereas she's was a lot of the time at the mercy of the other coaches she was working with. So it was hard, but just communication, even just like making sure we had a plan for food, making sure someone was going to be able to take the dogs out when they needed to go out, and just, keeping in touch with stuff like that. Yeah, communication definitely.
Yeah. I feel like we do a pretty good job. It's just like sometimes like especially now adding the podcasting in the mix is trying to find time to edit, and it's like normally that's not until like after practice or even when I do show, like it's a little bit easier now that we're in the springtime and it's freestyle, and we've gotten to the point where we have a pretty good sized staff, so we're doing Greco practice in a lift after school on Mondays, so it's like all right, I can go home. I can go home and do a podcast. But with her, it's just so she actually she used to do gymnastics, and she coaches now, so that's like we're able to kind of talk about coaching stuff, which is cool. But also, it's like when I come home, I do not want to talk about wrestling. It's like I've been talking about wrestling all day, and I love it. But sometimes it's hard for me to talk about my day. And, thankfully we're able to communicate. And she's like, hey, you seem kind of distant because I just have trouble letting things go sometimes,
Mhm.
and I don't know, just trying to, I guess, work on that piece is being able to talk about just things without like having it weigh you down too. Because I think
Yeah.
with a lot of coaches, that's something that happens. Um, I don't know, and I think especially her experience with athletics, like you guys are able to have those conversations. Maybe it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think so. And I think just, the longer we've been doing it, we kind of figure out things that work. I mean, she always asks me how practice is, or when I get home, like how's practice? And, this year, not just because we were successful, but we had a really, really good group of guys. And like, I remember I was like, good. And like, we're like a month into the season. She's like, I feel like you've said every practice has been good. I was like, been going good. But there's definitely days that are tough where I come home and I'm in a bad mood and she asks how practice was. I'm like, oh, you want to talk about it? Oh, it's like, okay. And like, even though she wants to be able to help, she's gotten really good at just like knowing, like, I got to give him some time or space or just let it go. And so I'm pretty stubborn. I think you're probably similar sometimes, but just she's had me get upset or just push her away so she can like feel it coming now. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the stubborn part has gotten me in trouble a few times, but thankfully I've had some good mentorship. I think just with guys that are still on the staff, and I'm pretty close with that, are able to kind of check me in a way that's not gonna like undermine me, but also like hold me accountable,
Mhm.
which I think is super important when you think about like why you got into coaching and maybe some of your coaching influences. Are there any guys that maybe pop out in terms of like mentorship or guys that you feel like you've learned a lot from?
That's a good question. I feel like I've done a good job taking bits and pieces from everyone I've learned from. And then also like taking positives and negatives, like, oh, I hated this about this coach or how they did that. So figuring out kind of what I liked, and it took me a while to like reflect back on my student athlete experience from college and like think about all the things I didn't like or why it wasn't as successful or as enjoyable, and try not to make those same mistakes. Still got plenty of work to do. I've been told by gets on my team at our exit meetings that I'm intimidating and hard to talk to at times. But to me, compared to my college coach, who like no one would ever just like willingly go in and talk to, I feel like I'm like the most approachable guy ever. But compared to the guys on the team, uh, not exactly the same thing. So definitely some areas where I can do better. But my high school coach was not the best wrestler. was not the most fit to show moves and stuff like that, but just the most passionate guy ever. He started the program after years and years of fighting
Mhm.
to get it added to the district, and that was my freshman year of high school. So that was the first year I ever wrestled, and I was stoked to do something that was weight class based because I wrestled
Yeah.
90 pounds my first year. I'd always played football and basketball and lacrosse and all these other sports, and I was a pretty good athlete, but I was 90 pounds as a high school freshman, so not a big advantage in other sports. So for him to just get it going, and then I was having some success and buying into it. He was willing to take me to different things and put in extra time and push me to get to the college level, where I had some good coaches there and I had some really good teammates there. My buddy, who was my college teammate, basically kind of helped me relearn how to wrestle at a higher level in college, which was huge. So I would say my buddy Parks probably taught me more about wrestling than most coaches have. So
Well, it sounds different when it comes from like a teammate or like a friend. I feel like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like we have a guy on our staff who, he wrestled for Frontier when wrestled at Cal Poly, and now he came back. And it's like, dude, he's the man just because he's a little bit younger than I am, and a little bit closer to the high school age. And guys have like grown up seeing a poster of him on the wall. So it's like when he tells them something, and it's like it just sounds completely different because it's like he's done what I'm trying to do in the same place that I'm trying to do it at. Which I think stuff like that, I mean, that's super, super important. But again, it's like when it comes from, a teammate or somebody that, again, maybe not necessarily a coach, I just feel like it's a little more impactful.
yeah, I agree.
It's, it's kind of like the same thing with Malenfant, like him doing those extra workouts, especially in the evening. It's like, I'm sure he's, like he's bringing guys with him. Like he's
Mhm.
taking, I'm sure taking some guys underneath his wing. So when he does leave the program, it's like there's going to be people that are kind of carrying on that same mentality and work ethic, and his impact's still going to be there, and that's just going to ripple to those other guys.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah. So your daughter's Gianna. That's her name.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So are you already kind of thinking like, all right, when can she start wrestling, or is this something that, you know, I don't know. Like I feel like with me, I'm not sure if I could necessarily coach my kid if they did decide to wrestle. I don't know necessarily what your perspective is that,
So
going along
that
with that.
question I get a lot. We have no plans. We're both athletes, so we're hoping she takes a likeness to athletics. If she wants to be in the band or uh, be in book club or do these other things, we'll support her obviously. But like hopefully she likes sports. If she wrestles, great. I'm gonna be busy with tournaments and practices, and she'll be tagging along when she's little. She went to nationals with us, and she was down on the
Nice.
floor during practices and stuff like that. I don't know if she'll remember anything, probably not this young, but she'll keep getting these experiences, and hopefully it makes her want to be a part of it. She sees that dad's doing it, and it's important to dad. So hopefully she wants to do it, but whatever she wants. And the other question I get a lot is, when are we having a boy? Or if we're going to keep going until we get a boy. Um, but we have one now, maybe one more, but that would be it. And if it's another girl, then great. If it's a boy, great. I already have 30 boys every year, so not of the mindset I got to keep going until I get a boy. I got plenty of boys, so whatever we get, if we have a second one, we'll be just fine.
Yeah, somebody was telling me today because one of my coworkers, like we're kind of in the same spot in life. So like we're getting married this summer, and like we're both talking about like kids and stuff like that. And one of the older teachers was like, like they say boys are a little bit easier actually to have, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I have no perspective on that, so I'm not sure if that's true necessarily. But I think with women's wrestling growing as the way that it is. Um, I think there's a lot of people that maybe kind of have that old school mentality of, you know, this is still kind of a male dominated sport, which I mean it is, but I think with just more opportunities for women, like Alfred State has a women's team. I mean, I think that's awesome. Um, how do you? I guess you guys share a room, so how does that work with scheduling and trying to work with the other, obviously the other girls coach?
Yeah, Coach Lane pretty much asked me what time we had been practicing previous years. She just started about a year ago. This was their first year. And she had a smaller roster. So she basically said, what time do you want? You guys have been here. This is your space. And you got a lot more guys and you got a kid at home. So whatever you guys want, you can do. And we'll go before or after you. So she was super accommodating. Um, and that's how it went this first year. So I don't know what the plans are um, moving forward, but this year it all went smoothly. But
Nice.
yeah, definitely different. You know, when it's only a men's team and the room is there, it's just the wrestling room. It's our room, and the guys can come and go as they please. There was a couple times where someone went in to do something like it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you guys in here? Like a girl was just doing her own extra workout too, so it was no problem. But it was just like a little shocking. It just catches you off guard. But it's cool to have female wrestlers coming in and doing stuff with our guys, getting their extra work in too. So
Yeah, I didn't even realize it was a girl coach. I think
yeah,
that's. I mean, I think I had Lori Ayers on the podcast, and again, I feel like I've been like a pretty traditionalist person in terms of viewpoint, in terms of women access to the sport and stuff like that. But she was talking about how just having a coach that kind of looks like you and maybe comes from a similar background, and how important it is, I think, for women to see that, and especially be in leadership positions. I don't know. I think it's cool. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like it would be pretty tough, kind of sharing a room, with another team. Period. Um, I mean, with at the high school level, we have like a JV practice and a varsity practice, and our girls team's growing. So it's just trying to figure out, like, as of now, we can kind of put them based on skill level. Um, so like our better girls wrestle in the varsity practice, and our newer, younger girls wrestle with the JV practice. But um, I'm just thinking our girls numbers are probably going to keep growing. So it's just like eventually with this small room, last year we had over 100 kids sign up for wrestling. It's just like, where are we going to put them all? So
yeah. Well, hopefully continued interest and maybe we could get you guys expanded into a bigger space or get you two spaces, one for each program.
yeah, we'll see. I'm talking to our admin. We have like our school size is down, so we have like kind of these empty classrooms where they're just storing desks and stuff like that in there. I'm like, can we just clear this out, put some mats down? Like, we just give us a little bit more space. Like, we don't, we can figure it out. We don't necessarily need too much, but I don't know. We'll see how that works. But yeah, like looking forward. So you got the rest of the spring and then this summer. What's next for you guys? Like what's kind of on your horizon right now?
For the program.
Yeah,
Um, Wrapping up this recruiting class. A lot of kids like to wait until after their season and then scramble to try to figure out what's going on. So there's still a good amount of kids I'm talking to. We have 16 commits right now. So a pretty good sized class, and I think we'll get a good handful more. So excited to finalize that and get them connected with the guys that are here. Um, Other than that, there's not much going on. I'll work a few camps and clubs and stuff over the summer. Um,
nice.
that's pretty much it.
Fundraising, is that pretty much happen all year round?
Um, we do a lot of fundraising during the season. We had a pin pool, and we participate in the college's Day of Giving
Mhm.
fundraiser. So those are our big ones. And then we do some other stuff. We worked the Buffalo Bills game this year, so
Nice.
that was cool. Uh, that was a cool one. But over the summer, when these kids scatter, there's not a whole lot that can be accomplished when they're scattered all over the Northeast. So it kind of is good for me because it makes me kind of just have to turn it off for a little bit. I'm always kind of doing some stuff here and there, but it gets pretty quiet, so I can spend time with family and do some traveling and relax and hang out. And then, when August rolls around, picks back up and get ready to reload for a long grind of a season.
Yeah. I think if you ever find your way out west, want to stop by Bakersfield. I mean, it's I don't know if you've heard about it, but beautiful vacation destination. Lots of oil fields, and it's right in the Central Valley, so there's a ton of smog. But hey, when it rains, like, it clears up and you can see the mountains sort of. So pretty cool
Quite
spot.
the sales pitch.
I mean, there's good wrestling here though. So yeah, honestly, dude, if you ever want to come out and just check it out, if it happens, awesome. But I mean, there's good wrestling out here, and I think especially the way that like there isn't any Division III schools out here. It's pretty much like you either go on Division I, which is tough just because of the cost of living in certain areas is tough, and then the Division II landscape is kind of similar. They just opened up Humboldt State that's in Arcadia, so it's like a little bit north of San Francisco. Um, I mean, that's kind of an option. Then San Francisco State, dude. I mean, it's pretty hard, I think, financially to stay in California unless you go to like a JC or Cal State Bakersfield. But even the JC is like it's not like a national JUCO program. It's all just in the state. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think we actually had one kid last year who went and wrestled at Wartburg, which I think was cool. But honestly, I would like to see more of our guys just know that they can wrestle outside California if they want to. It doesn't necessarily have to be this expensive endeavor. So hearing that you guys are being able to do in-state tuition for some kids, I think that's awesome. So would love definitely to maybe touch base with you about just trying to get some kids maybe over there too.
Yeah, we could for sure talk offline about some of the things we offer and do well here. My wife is originally from California and went to
There
New
you
York
go.
College, so it's been done before. People can do it. Uh, it's a big jump, but if people want to pursue their athletics and take it seriously, the kid coming from Florida, he's going to have to get on a plane to go back and forth, same from California. So
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you having being able to come on the show. We've been going for just about an hour. Is there anything else maybe you want to talk about that we haven't hit on yet?
no, I think we covered a lot. I appreciate you having me on. It's good to see you again after all these years from J Rob. Those camps were awesome, and I'm glad we could reconnect.
Dude, I forgot I was going to ask you one thing. So I think your first camp, that was the camp at Edinburgh, right? The 14-day.
Yeah,
Do you remember? Did you get hand, foot, and mouth when you were there?
no,
Dude, that was the most miserable time of my life because
I
it's like
forgot. Yeah, that was going around.
that was so bad. And I'm a little bit sick right now, so I was just thinking about. I was like, man, the last time, I think I was maybe had like a strep throat. It was like I got hand, foot, and mouth, and it was freaking locked in that dorm for like what seemed like ever, but I think it was just a few days.
Yeah, well, at least you didn't have to do grad school work while you were locked in your dorm.
Well, I actually was supposed to do a class. I'll say this on air. It's fine. I was actually supposed to do a class that I didn't do so hot in during the season. And I'm normally, I think, a pretty decent student. It's just I'm not going to lie, a little bit of senioritis. And I already got my bachelor's in 4. So it was my 5th year and my last year competing. I was getting my teaching credential. And, I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to teach or coach in high school. I was actually looking at like grad assistant positions and actually applied for a JC assistant coach. So I was thinking about going doing that. So I kind of blew that off a little bit. But yeah, doing grad assistant stuff, just getting your master's and stuff while you're at camp. I don't know. I was just having a good time,
Yeah, I
except
still
for I
have
got sick.
I still have a video somewhere on my phone of you like busting out dance moves and the
No, what?
yeah, I'll
I don't
find
even
it.
remember that.
I'll text it to you. You had some
Okay.
killer dance moves showing up the little kids at the school store.
Yeah, I believe that. I probably did do that. Man. Dude, those are some fun times.
Yeah, those camps were awesome.
All right, man. Well, I'll stop the recording. Just thanks again for coming on. Um, yeah, dude, it was cool catching up with you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Keep in touch.
That was episode 53 with Justin Signorelli. Thank you guys for listening. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as Spotify. If you want to look at any past episodes of the show, you guys can go on CaliWrestling.com, the place for Cali Wrestling. See you guys next time.